Hlubi of Numsa, and they are calling for members of other sectors to mobilize and possibly join a sympathy strike to support members in the engineering sector. This after the nation has averted a nationwide strike in the public sector, which could have been adversely impacted the economy of the country. Phakamile Hlubi joins us. Phakamile Hlubi Majola, rather, Numsa spokesperson, joins us now. Phakamile, good evening, and thank you very much for your time tonight here on In Focus. Talk to us about a possibility of a strike in the engineering sector. I mean, already a hard-hit sector that with losses of close to 50 billion rands.
Good afternoon and good evening and good evening to your viewers, and thank you so much for having me on your show. Yes, indeed, we have deadlocked with the employers in the Metals and Engineering Industries Bargaining Council, which represents the engineering sector. We are in the process of renegotiating a wage agreement because the wage agreement has expired and we now need to renegotiate a new one. We are at the point where we have deadlocked, and unfortunately, as long as we are deadlocked and are unable to find each other, then it does mean that a strike is looming in this sector. Yeah. You know, our members have gone through a lot. They've been deeply affected by the lockdown, and we would really call on the employers and the sector to come to the table and work with us so that we can find an amicable solution and avoid a strike. Now,
SAFSA has, of course, lodged a counter-dispute on the 2nd of August, saying the unions are refusing to accept the offer by the employer. What are the offers that are being given on the table?
Yes, they have. So there's really a few issues which have brought us to the point where of where we have deadlocked. Let's put it that way, where we are stuck and where we've deadlocked. Right at how I can break it down is I'll break it down as the following. The employers have made an offer of 4.4% for the first year, and then CPI plus 0.5% in the second year, and CPI plus 1% in the third year. On our end, what we are proposing as Numsa is 8% across the board, and it would be based on what workers are actually earning, the actual rates of pay. And we are proposing a minimum 6% increase based on CPI. So if CPI is 6%, then that's what we would like for the second and third year. So that's where the point of dispute is at the point where the employers, for example, are demanding something called a special dispensation, which basically would allow employers who are not adhering to the minimum rate, who are not paying 49 Rand an hour, to continue not to pay the minimum rate, thus ensuring that workers who've already been disadvantaged by being denied the official minimum rate continue to be denied that for a period of 15 years. And they want us to accept that dispensation without any data to back up why or what would justify that type of arrangement, particularly given that under the MEIBC, there are avenues for employers to seek exemptions if they can't afford an increase.
Yeah. Why would you want an increase above the inflation forecast of currently the employer is saying they're offering 4.4%, but if you look at the actual inflation forecast, this offer would mean the actual salary increase is about 4.7%.
People should not forget that as of last year, workers in the engineering sector did not get an increase. Workers took the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of the sector. And because we had this very, the COVID-19 pandemic had just arrived on our shores and we were right in the middle of a very hard lockdown, we took a decision to save the sector and workers did not take an increase. And as a result, our members suffered very, very badly during that period and they continue to do so. Many workers have been retrenched because companies took that opportunity to improve their balance sheets through retrenchments. And at the same time, You had this, the fact that other companies actually improved their balance sheets in that period and made a profit while our members suffered. So we feel that the employers in the sector are not trying hard enough to meet us halfway, given that workers have already made very major sacrifices in the interest of the sector last year.
So on Tuesday, when you meet of a possible way forward in breaking this deadlock, what are your non-negotiables?
Well, the main thing really for us would be to try and find a reasonable solution to this special dispensation. We're not trying to say that we don't want to support companies that can't afford an increase. As we say, there are mechanisms at the MEIBC to cater to employers rather, who can't afford to pay the increase. But we would want employers to do better than what they've offered, what they've put on the table. Certainly they need to do better than 4.4%, and they certainly need to take this 15-year special dispensation off the table, because what it would result in is a situation where those workers who are already earning 49 Rand would then actually be replaced with workers who are earning a much lesser rate. Yeah. That is not something that any trade union could reasonably expect and accept, and workers should never be expected to accept that, given how hard they've worked to increase the rate in the sector.
And the country is still reeling from the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course the economy suffering likewise. We've seen in the public sector the majority of the unions accepting a 1.5% increase when initially they had called for 8%. I mean, just tells you how successful do you think you're going to be with this call for 8%?
Well, we're going to do the best that we can. And as we said, we are currently mobilizing our members, not just in engineering, but in other sectors where Numsa is organized, in value chain industries, to participate in a sympathy strike if it comes to a sympathy strike. And I think it should be stated for the record that it is disgraceful that this government basically, robbed public servants of their increase. That this government had the audacity during this very difficult time of lockdown and coronavirus pandemic to withhold an increase that is really deserved by workers in the public sector, especially health workers, and in so doing set a disgraceful example to the private sector that it is justifiable to take from the working class and the working poor, as they have consistently been doing. So on our end, our members have made it very clear that these are their demands, and we are adhering to their wishes. We would like the employers to engage us meaningfully when we meet, so that we can try and avoid a strike in the engineering sector.
Speaking for Numsa, Phakamile Hlubi Majola, appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining us tonight here on In Focus, Newzroom Afrika, channel 405. That is, of course, the Numsa spokesperson. They're calling on government to come on the table meaningfully when they meet on Tuesday, or else they will be calling for a sympathy strike and asking others in the automobile sector, steel and engineering sector, and other sectors, including aviation, to join in that strike, which could be disastrous for the economy of South Africa.